Now, Yuki's stuck battling monsters, following orders, and surviving a partnership that's equal parts chaos and way too steamy. The anime kicks off with Yuki Wakura, a pathetic excuse for a human being, whining about his miserable life while cleaning the classroom. His so-called friends, who look like they were designed to be forgotten immediately, mock him because they've decided Yuki is their personal janitor. To be fair, Yuki seems to have some next-level cleaning skills, like a human vacuum. Just as he finishes scrubbing every corner of the room, the girls arrive at school late as usual. The boys can't complain because, unlike them, the girls have superpowers. Yuki, ever the self-loathing goat, reflects on how useless his existence is. Even so, Yuki tries to stay helpful. When one of his buddies needs a button fixed, Yuki whips out his sewing kit and mends it in record time. His friends, however, aren't impressed. They remind him that sewing skills won't get him a girlfriend, which hits him harder than a truck kun. Just when Yuki starts questioning his purpose in life, between sewing buttons and dreaming of a dead-end job, things take a turn for the worse. A strange fog rolls in, and before he can figure out what's happening, Yuki finds himself in Mato, a terrifying alternate dimension filled with monsters known as Shuki. He freaks out and tries to follow the basic rule of Mato mishaps: sit still and wait for rescue. But Yuki, being Yuki, manages to attract a Shuki. Panicking, he tries to fight it with a rock. Spoiler alert, it does nothing but annoy the monster. When all hope seems lost, a girl named Kyoka Yuzen swoops in on a Shuki mount to save his sorry life. She's the commander of the 7th Squadron of the Demon Defense Force, and immediately proves why she's the boss. With her sword, she slices through monsters like she's in a low-budget Bleach knockoff. Meanwhile, Yuki, useless as ever, cowers in the background. Kyoka drags him along as her Shuki pet gets shredded, leaving her to fend off the monsters on foot. Luckily, her backup squad, Himari, Nei, and Shushu, arrives just in time to show off their insane peach-powered abilities. Himari transforms her arm into a Gatling gun, Shushu goes full giant mode like she's auditioning for Attack on Titan, and Nei scouts the area like a pro. Yuki watches in awe, finally realizing these girls are leagues above his useless self. The team clears out the Shuki, but Kyoka isn't done with Yuki yet. She decides to use her questionable powers on him. With no better options and a death wish in his heart, Yuki agrees to her insane plan. She tells him to lick her finger, a scene so cringe-worthy it'll haunt you for days. Miraculously, it works. Chains of energy surround Yuki, and he transforms into a demon-powered beast that looks like a Pokemon, and Bleach fusion gone wrong. Kyoka wastes no time exploiting her new servant, commanding Yuki to annihilate the remaining monsters. To everyone's shock, Yuki goes berserk, ripping through Shuki like they're made of paper. He's flying, slicing, and showing off like he's been waiting his whole life for this moment. The squad takes out a massive demon, and Kyoka is thrilled with her new toy. However, there's a catch to her ability. Every time Yuki fights, Kyoka has to reward him in proportion to his effort. That's right, she has to kiss him. Yuki, being the ultimate dweeb, can barely handle it. His brain short-circuits after the first kiss, and he ends up accidentally punching her in the face in pure awkwardness. Despite the chaos, Kyoka sees potential in Yuki. She reveals her grand ambition to become Supreme Commander and eradicate all Shuki. She convinces Yuki to join her, but not as a warrior, because men can't officially join the defense force. Instead, he's stuck as the squad's caretaker, basically a glorified janitor. Yuki's dreams of heroism are crushed as the girls immediately order him to do their chores. While most of them treat him like dirt, Nei shows a bit of kindness, but it's clear that Yuki is at the bottom of the totem pole. As Yuki scrubs floors and does laundry, he realizes his new life might not be so bad. Sure, he's a servant, but at least he gets to fight monsters and receive rewards from Kyoka. His pathetic existence in the real world pales in comparison to his new role in Mato. Yuki vows to make the most of his bizarre situation. The episode ends with Kyoka welcoming him to the squad. Yuki is proudly finishing his cleaning duties. The clown even dares to critique the scenery as if he has any taste. Suddenly, a Shuki, those knockoff hollows from Bleach, tries to ambush him, but the barrier stops the wannabe ninja. Nei shows up, checking if Yuki survived his own stupidity. She explains that the 7th Squadron has been stuck in the unlucky southwest area of Mat, where Shuki pop up more than mosquitoes on a summer night. Mat is an alternate dimension as massive as Tokyo, divided into 8 zones. He then notices a Shuki awkwardly hanging out nearby and wonders if they should do something about it. Nei shrugs it off like a pro, saying it's just a small fry. Himari, however, disagrees. She goes full Mega Man, blasting the poor thing with her Gatling gun. Yuki throws a tantrum because she almost hit him. but Himari dismisses him, saying he'd already be Swiss cheese if she wanted to hit him. She orders him to start working on dinner, reminding him he's only there because Kyoka allowed it. Yuki grumbles about his life as a glorified maid, his dreams of heroism crushed under the weight of dirty laundry and cooking pots. Later, when dinner's served, the squad praises his cooking. Even Himari, who's got the attitude of a tsundere, asks for seconds. Yuki basks in their compliments, but is quickly reminded of all his other chores. As he sulks about being a handyman instead of a hero, Kyoka calmly explains he'll join battles when needed, but until then, he's stuck being the team's Cinderella. Himari casually threatens to decapitate him when he whines, and Kyoka adds her 2 cents, warning she'll rip off his manhood if he misbehaves. What a supportive bunch. Later that night, Shushu, who's now the size of a Funko Pop, accuses Yuki of spying on the girls. Yuki tries to explain he was just cleaning, but she doesn't care. She takes an incriminating picture for fun, claiming she likes keeping things interesting. This little gremlin forces him to clean her room, do her laundry, and still finds time to snap misleading photos. Yuki's pitiful attempts to delete the pictures fail spectacularly, leaving him more depressed than ever. As Yuki mopes around like a baby, he stumbles upon Kyoka and Himari training. A Shuki appears, and Kyoka obliterates it like it owed her money. Himari is impressed, but Yuki is horrified, realizing he must never get on Kyoka's bad side. Nei announces she's leaving for a meeting, leaving Yuki alone with Shushu, the queen of torment. That night, Shushu forces Yuki to give her a massage, revealing she grew up without a father and came to Matt for excitement. To pass the time, they play video games. Yuki, the genius he is, bets he'll win. Predictably, he loses every match and even his shirt. Just as things couldn't get worse, a massive Shuki appears to attack the barrier. Yuki, in true cowardly fashion, wants to stay back, but Shushu grows into her jumbo size and goes to fight. The battle turns intense as Shushu pummels the Shuki. She smashes it into the ground and crushes it beneath her feet, flexing her massive strength. However, her power starts draining fast, and just when she celebrates her victory, another, bigger Shuki shows up. This one's a fusion of several monsters, and it's ready to throw hands. Shushu tries to grow even bigger but fails, leaving her vulnerable. The monster grabs her, landing a brutal punch. Yuki, being the bootlicker he is, literally this time, comes up with a ridiculous plan to transform. He remembers that touching Kyoka's belongings triggered his power, so he runs to the laundry room, licking her gloves and stuffing his face in her shirt. Nothing works until he finds her boots. As the monster continues its rampage, Yuki, in a moment of utter desperation, licks the boot and finally triggers his transformation. Power surges through his body, and he rushes to the battlefield. Shushu, now struggling against the monster, gets some much-needed backup as Yuki unleashes a devastating kick, obliterating the Shuki's head. Shushu scolds him for being reckless, but Yuki claims he couldn't back down after being called a wimp. Back at the dorm, Kyoka patches Yuki up, and the squad mocks him for being useless after just a few minutes of fighting. Kyoka lectures Shushu about underestimating opponents and punishes her by assigning her Yuki's chores. Kyoka drags Yuki through an interdimensional gateway with all the grace of someone lugging a sack of potatoes. As they arrive, Yuki marvels at how insane this traveling business is, especially since it felt like just a 50-minute car ride back home. Kyoka leaves him alone, telling him to enjoy the fresh air, something Yuki doesn't get often, probably because nobody willingly hangs out with a guy this clueless. Meanwhile, back in Mono, Nei learns Kyoka took Yuki through the Amagata passage. Shocked at first, Nei remembers that today is a tragic day. Kyoka takes Yuki to a cemetery and starts sharing some dark history. Years ago, a bunch of Shuki, the nastiest demons around, invaded her world. Among them was a terrifying creature with a single horn she nicknamed Unicorn. Unicorn went on a rampage, destroying her hometown and leaving a trail of destruction. While the Demon Defense Force managed to wipe out most of the Shuki, Unicorn slipped through the cracks, retreating to another world. Kyoka is still furious and vows to take Unicorn down, dragging Yuki into her vendetta. She tells him to be ready for when the day comes, but honestly, Yuki looks more ready to fall over than fight. Yuki, being his typical airheaded self, decides it's parfait time. He convinces Kyoka to stop at a nearby cafe famous for its desserts, waving pictures of the parfaits like a bribe. Kyoka, initially annoyed, caves in after seeing how amazing the parfait looks. Yuki reminisces about his late sister, who always encouraged him to try new things, including cooking and cleaning. Meanwhile, Kyoka is busy devouring her parfait like it's the last meal she'll ever eat. Their little dessert break is cut short by an emergency call from Mano. Kyoka forces Yuki to transform into his demon form, which, hilariously, doubles as a glorified transportation system. Back in Mano, Kyoka learns that a massive Shuki nest has appeared, with hundreds of demons congregating in a crater. Even though she's stunned, Yuki is hyped, ready to charge in like the world's dumbest superhero. The team prepares for battle, with Kyoka reminding Yuki to wait for her signal before doing anything stupid, which is basically his specialty. At the crater, the team's strategy is to let the Shuki merge into one giant monster, making it easier to take them down. Things are going smoothly until a beam of destruction suddenly blasts one of their trucks. The source? None other than the infamous Unihorn, now accompanied by a creepy, talking girl. Kyoka immediately recognizes Unihorn and goes berserk, ready to settle the score. The girl easily fends off their attacks and reveals that she's searching for her brother. She explains how her once sweet sibling turned into a rascal as he grew older, and she delights in beating him into shape. Yuki starts wondering if she's a Shuki or something else entirely, but before he can think too hard, the merged Shuki interrupts her monologue. Furious at being interrupted, the girl obliterates the giant demon in seconds, feeding its remains to Unihorn like a snack. Kyoka finally realizes this girl might be the supreme commander of the Shuki. Yuki, meanwhile, is too busy panicking as the girl gets uncomfortably close to him. She's shocked to discover that he's not a Shuki, but an actual human. Kyoka jumps back into the fight, managing to push the girl and Unihorn back. They make a strategic retreat, but Kyoka's rage boils over. She wants revenge so badly that she nearly jeopardizes her team. Yuki, surprisingly, helps calm her down, focusing on getting their injured squad mates to safety. Back at the dorm, Kyoka reflects on her mistakes. She acknowledges that her anger almost cost her everything, and decides to prioritize her team's well-being. Yuki, on the other hand, gets rewarded in the weirdest way possible, by being stepped on. That's right, Kyoka stomps on him, and instead of being offended, he looks genuinely terrified by his own psyche. Later, as Yuki cooks dinner, he reveals that the girl's face reminded him of his sister. He's confused and torn, unable to understand how she could have survived, or why she would be allied with the Shuki. Kyoka dismisses the idea, saying it's impossible for a human to turn into a Shuki. Still, Yuki can't shake the feeling that there's more to this mystery. Meanwhile, the mysterious girl, revealed to be Aoba Wakura, returns to her base. She's convinced Yuki is her long-lost brother, but is puzzled by his Shuki-like appearance. She finds their reunion amusing, despite the chaos it caused. As if things couldn't get worse for Yuki, he accidentally walks in on Himari in the bath. Just as she's about to end his miserable existence, a new pair of characters appear through a gateway. These newcomers, Izumo and Isuma, are from the 6th squad and are very interested in Yuki. Lucky him, more people to complicate his already chaotic life. Everyone gathers to meet Isumo, who thinks Kyoka is a boss for having a servant that brews killer coffee. Meanwhile, the Supreme Commander has dropped a bombshell about a new nasty humanoid Shuki wreaking havoc. Isumo's here to talk about a big change. The Demon Defense Force squadrons will start working together. About time, considering they've been running around like headless chickens. Azuma, the resident pain in the neck, decides it's the perfect time to mock Himari for fainting like a scared kitten in their last battle. She calls her a disgrace to their family, and outright tells her to quit her dreams. Smooth. But let's not miss Azuma's moment of wisdom as she admits that the humanoid Shuki is no joke. Even Kyoka agrees. With her endless patience and genius ideas, suggests an inter-squad exhibition match to settle this nonsense. Kyoka insists on single combat, and Isumo gives her blessing. When preparations are underway, Himari approaches Kyoka and asks for help. Kyoka warns her it won't be easy, but Himari, determined to prove she's not a complete failure, is all in. She then turns to her unfortunate servant, Yuki, who's basically roped into this madness for the sole purpose of her victory. After cooking a meal for the girls, he's praised by Himari, who calls him a great servant. Poor guy just wonders how his life went so sideways. Himari reveals her trump card. Her real ability isn't just turning body parts into weapons. No, it's called learning. By using her phone like some sort of trading card game, she can copy other people's powers. Yuki, while impressed, can't help but notice how absurd this all sounds. Himari proudly selects Kyoka's ability, but she barely knows how it works. She assumes it'll just mean doing extra chores like cleaning and laundry. Sure, because using superpowers should definitely feel like being in a maid cafe. As they train, Shuki attacks, and Himari makes Yuki transform. He's not as strong as usual, but ridiculously fast, which is new. In his altered state, Yuki punches the Shuki like a caffeinated boxer, while Himari gleefully watches, thinking he might actually help her beat her sister. She is, of course, blissfully unaware that Yuki might break his spine doing her dirty work. Himari explains that her learning ability isn't perfect, it's got compatibility issues. Some abilities degrade to ridiculous levels. For example, using someone's growing power only makes her nose grow an inch. Yuki rolls his eyes as Himari shrugs off the side effects of Kyoka's ability. She's too busy trying to prove herself to care. A flashback reveals that Himari grew up in a high-achieving family where she was the black sheep, constantly failing and embarrassing herself. Now she's determined to show them all she's not useless. Yuki grudgingly agrees to help, even though she treats him like dirt. She tells him her sister's power, Golden Hour, lets her control time, including rewinding and freezing it. Yuki quickly realizes they're doomed, but Himari insists they can win by exploiting the power drain that comes with using Golden Hour. Yuki helps Himari develop a finishing move by channeling all his energy into his legs. Predictably, his legs get huge, and he zooms around like Sonic on steroids. However, his first attempt at a finishing move flops, and he's left with noodle arms. Himari keeps pushing him to perfect the technique. She's not winning any awards for kindness, but at least she gives him a head pat. Kyoka drops in on their next training session and is impressed by their progress. She reminds Himari to properly use her servant, Yuki, and make her proud. Himari, suddenly inspired, grabs Yuki's chain and orders him to focus his strength on his legs. Yuki obeys, unleashing a devastating attack that obliterates Ashuki. Himari is thrilled, and Yuki wonders how he's become so tragically effective. On the day of the exhibition match, everyone gathers. Azuma is ready to crush her sister, but Himari is determined to prove her wrong. Gina, a fangirl referee, sets up a barrier that heals injuries, letting them go all out. Himari squares off against Azuma with Yuki in tow. The match starts, and Yuki uses his lightning-fast attack to leave Azuma gasping for air. Azuma rewinds time to reset the fight, but it's clear she's tiring out. She smugly believes her time manipulation has gotten stronger, but Himari did one more powerful move. Yuki and Himari execute their polished finishing technique, combining blistering speed and raw force to knock Azuma down. Azuma tries to recover, but it's clear she's outmatched. Himari's victory is sealed, leaving everyone, including Yuki, stunned. While Himari basks in her success, Yuki silently prays for a life that doesn't involve being a human punching bag. Himari doesn't let her sister Azuma breathe for even a second. She has Yuki launching attacks faster than a hyperactive squirrel on espresso. Azuma, panicking, uses her flashy Golden Hour ability to rewind time by 5 seconds. She freezes time again, hoping to catch them. But surprise! Yuki and Himari have already switched tactics like sneaky little foxes. Azuma looks like she's just realized her strategy was as useful as a chocolate teapot. Himari smirks, feeling proud they made Azuma waste her ability. She tells Yuki to stick to their genius plan, and the crowd is eating it up. Yuki moves so fast it's like he's trying out for a superhero movie. Himari's plan is simple: confuse Azuma by running circles around her like a dog chasing its tail. Yuki feels Himari's desperation to win. He's sweating bullets but keeps speeding up because his master commands it. Their plan? Attack or dodge the moment she starts posing. Himari figures they just need to make her waste her powers, and victory is theirs. But Azuma isn't some clueless cow. She sees through Himari's plan and pulls out her trump card, Prime Time. This freezes time for 10 seconds and traps Himari and Yuki like flies in amber. Himari misjudges the range, so she's stuck with no escape. Azuma uses this chance to fire bullets at her sister. When time resumes, Himari is down, shocking the spectators who thought she was winning. Azuma explains her primetime ability with the sass of a peacock on a runway. It's Golden Hour, but doubled in duration. The catch? It takes longer to activate. Azuma figured Himari was learning her old tricks, so she upgraded to this devastating move. The crowd is stunned. Himari can't believe her sister hid this skill. Azuma gloats, claiming she's a genius who only gets better with time, like fine wine. Himari's downfall is complete, or so Azuma thinks. The crowd starts cheering Himari on. Nei is worried, but Shushu has faith the fight isn't over. Azuma, in full smug mode, rubs salt into Himari's wounds. She mocks her sister's inability to meet expectations. Himari, battered and doubting herself, starts wondering if all her effort is useless. But Yuki, the little weasel, snaps her out of it. He points out Azuma's face. She's running on fumes. Yuki, despite looking like a wilted plant himself, refuses to let Himari quit. Himari's confidence returns, and she promises to punish her cheeky servant after they win. With renewed determination, Himari fights back. Azuma tries to mess with her again, but Himari brushes it off, claiming that fighting to the bitter end isn't shameful. Azuma, desperate to crush her sister's spirit, realizes her plan to train Himari later might not work out. Himari and Yuki launch a surprise move. Yuki emits a blinding light, tricking Azuma into rewinding time by 5 seconds. But when time resets, she finds herself aiming at plain old Yuki. Confused, she fires wildly, only to take damage herself. Turns out Himari had used the distraction to land a decisive blow. Azuma collapses and everyone is speechless. Himari strikes a victory pose like the over-the-top drama queen she is. She's declared the winner, and the crowd erupts in celebration. Kyoka explains Himari's strategy, praising her for using Yuki's transformation smoke as cover. Just as everyone's cheering, they notice Yuki isn't looking too good. Kyoka reassures them that the injury sustained in the barrier will heal completely. Sure enough, Yuki bounces back like a cockroach after a hurricane. Himari gloats about her victory and teases Yuki, who just woke up and is already regretting his life choices. Azuma regains consciousness and reflects on her sister's growth. She remembers how Himari used to overwork herself to meet impossible standards. Azuma admits Himari has grown stronger and promises to treat her better. She asks Himari to come back home, but Himari declines, claiming the 7th Squadron is where she belongs. Azuma, crushed, accepts defeat. After the battle, Himari rewards Yuki with not 1 but 2 kisses. Yuki, still looking like he's been run over by a truck, doesn't know how to feel about this. Himari clarifies that the kisses are just the price of using her powers, which shocks Shushu, who was clearly rooting for a more romantic explanation. Meanwhile, Azuma apologizes to her team for losing and leaves the next match to Sahara, who's the picture of calm confidence. Himari and Yuki share a moment, with Himari acknowledging his hard work. They smile, knowing they pulled off a nearly impossible victory. Outside, uninvited guests are lurking. The next fight is about to begin, but the drama is far from over. Shushu, eager to prove herself, goes to fetch Himari and Yuki. Himari, still riding the high of victory, teases Yuki again. Whatever comes next, this duo is ready to face it together. Well, as long as Yuki doesn't pass out again. The story barrels forward into round 2, where Shushu faces Sahara. Both fighters claim to specialize in hand-to-hand combat, but let's be honest, Shushu's the kind of over-enthusiastic bull in a china shop, and Sahara is the underdog golden retriever trying her hardest. Shushu, desperate to get Yuki's attention after flunking Azuma's test and being relegated to a glorified cheerleader, has her eyes set on victory. Meanwhile, Sahara vows to make her friends proud, because who doesn't love a good wholesome promise before some chaos? The two decide to throw hands the old-fashioned way before resorting to their special abilities. Shushu grows into a giant, while Sahara activates her Mad Sheep ability, which boosts her strength depending on the time she sets. The shorter the duration, the crazier the power. After dodging Shushu's attack, Sahara lands a slap across her massive face and declares that paper beats rock, leaving Shushu looking like a confused cow. Sahara uses her quick attacks to whittle down Shushu, pointing out that being a massive target is not the smartest strategy. But Shushu, in her infinite goat-level wisdom, decides to double down, getting even bigger. She literally body slams Sahara like a wrestler on steroids, thinking she's won. Everyone starts celebrating prematurely because, apparently, this is the anime world where common sense takes a holiday. But Sahara, unconscious, yet terrifying, activates her hidden ability, which lets her go berserk like an out-of-control zombie sheep. She smashes Shushu into the ground with the kind of power that says, "I'm not done yet!" Shushu, of course, eats dirt. Sahara is declared the winner, and Shushu is left to cry over her ruined dignity. Shushu tries to slink away, but her drama doesn't go unnoticed. Yuki, ever the oblivious dorm caretaker, offers her a drink to cheer her up. She walks away, swearing she won't confess her feelings until she wins his admiration, which, judging by her track record, might take a while. Meanwhile, Nei senses trouble brewing, and things quickly escalate when a mysterious woman appears. The woman delivers some cryptic threats before summoning a horde of Shuki, those demonic punching bags from earlier. Just as everyone starts panicking, another mysterious figure, Ryan, makes an entrance, smashing through barriers like a wrecking ball. Kyoka wastes no time rallying her troops, proving why she's in charge, and orders everyone to get ready for battle. Shushu, who seems to have recovered from her earlier embarrassment, charges back into the fight, this time alongside Sahara. The two form an unlikely duo, with Shushu's brute force and Sahara's strategy. But Ryan, targeting none of them, decides to aim for Himari, deeming her annoying enough to deserve a near-death experience. Alma swoops in to save her sister, only to realize Ryan is a much bigger threat than anyone anticipated. The sisters signal each other and come up with a plan. Meanwhile, Yuki, Himari, and Kyoka team up, with Himari requesting a rather awkward mount-up scenario, that leaves Yuki both confused and transformed into his most powerful form yet. Powered by two masters, Yuki lets loose a blast so strong it leaves everyone in awe. The swarm of Shuki is decimated, and the team regains some confidence. Kyoko reassures Himari that her sister will be fine with Alma on the battlefield. Elsewhere, Alma is struggling against Ryan's overwhelming power. He literally tears her arm off, thinking he's won, but Alma rewinds time by 5 seconds, proving she's not one to be underestimated. Though battered, she continues fighting, ready for her next move. Just as Ryan prepares a devastating attack, Isumo arrives in dramatic fashion, neutralizing an entire army of Shuki single-handedly. Isumo, cool as ever, challenges Ryan directly, leaving the rest of the team in awe. The chaos was off the charts. Shuki were everywhere like ants on sugar, and the battle was getting crazier by the second. Kyoko, the iron-willed commander, showed why she was boss. She barked orders like a seasoned drill sergeant, while Shushu and Sahara played their part, swatting down Shuki like they were annoying flies. Meanwhile, Isumo, our cool-as-ice wildcard, watched silently, ready to throw hands if necessary. On the other side, Ryan strutted around like he owned the place. He was clearly aiming for commanders, disappointed that only 2 had dared to face him. He boasted about how he'd end the fight in a blink and launched a lightning attack that tore through the battlefield. But guess what? His big bad attack barely phased anyone important. Ryan lost his smug grin and got serious. He powered up dramatically, probably thinking he was the final boss, and unleashed a massive attack. Everyone thought Isumo was toast, but Kyoko knew better. Isumo pulled a Houdini, using her portals to dodge and counterattack. She landed a hit that sent Ryan tumbling through the air like a deflated balloon. The cherry on top, she teleported him into oblivion. Ryan, self-proclaimed invincible warrior, was now a lost and confused cow floating through space. After the dust settled, the commanders regrouped, basking in their victory. Kyoko, of course, was all about declaring her ultimate goal of becoming supreme commander. Yuki, our protagonist, stood there like a deer in headlights, realizing he couldn't just be a fanboy anymore. He had to step up if he wanted to be a hero. Isumo, ever the charming bully, called him a little servant, while Jenna suddenly decided Yuki was some kind of prodigy and became his #1 fangirl. Talk about going from zero to hero in record time. Meanwhile, Himari had a heartfelt moment with her sister Alma, who saved her during the battle. Alma, being her usual stone-faced self, acted like she only helped to avoid disgracing the family name. Classic sibling denial. But when Alma offered to train her, Himari stood her ground, declaring her squadron as her true home. Their rivalry was still alive and kicking, but at least they weren't at each other's throats. Yuki, the ever-diligent caretaker, decided to help out with chores. Cleaning was his jam, but the dorms were already spotless. This goat-brained hero got excited over a single stain like it was a treasure map, analyzing it like a scientist. His laundry game wasn't much better. He had to hype himself up just to fold clothes. During his errands, he stumbled into Alma's room, which was basically a shrine to Himari. The guy noped out of there faster than a cat near water. Sahara, on the other hand, was busy napping but apologized in her usual weird way when Yuki found her. Back in the gym, Alma was pumping iron like a machine, proving she was still leagues ahead of Himari. Sahara, playing the wise mentor, explained how people's abilities reflected their desires. Apparently, Himari's power to mimic others came from wanting to learn from Alma, and Isumo's portal mastery stemmed from wanting more time with her sister. Himari decided to patch things up with Alma, who, despite her tough exterior, seemed to appreciate the effort. While all this was happening, Kyoko planned the next move. She suspected the humanoid enemies were regrouping, especially since one of them, Ryan, had somehow survived Isumo's portal shenanigans. Turns out, he was saved by his ally, Shikoku, just before becoming space dust. Shikoku, a strategist who viewed humans like an amusing science experiment, recapped their losses and planned to wait until all 8 humanoids were united before striking again. Ryan, being the stubborn goat he was, still thought they could win, but Shikoku and another humanoid named Ju shut him down. Back at the dorms, Kyoko and Isumo wrapped up their meeting, but Isumo dropped a bombshell. She wanted Yuki, the little servant, to join her team. Why? Who knows? But Kyoko's face said it all. Pure shock. Maybe Isumo saw something in Yuki that the rest of us missed, or maybe she just wanted a free errand boy. Either way, Yuki's life was about to get even more chaotic. Kyoko stands there, stunned. Izumo, the Audacity Queen, wants Yuki. Why? Because her personal life is duller than a brick in a museum, and she thinks a pet, Yuki, of all people, will help her unwind after a hard day. Kyoko, understandably horrified, is not about to hand Yuki over, even when Isumo dangles the Supreme Commander endorsement like a shiny carrot. Isumo, not one to take no lightly, asks if she can at least date Yuki in her free time. Kyoko rolls her eyes but reluctantly tells Yuki about it later. Yuki, the overworked doormat that he is, laments that he's too busy playing 7th Squadron babysitter to have free time. His life really is the pits. Later that night, while Yuki is lying in bed, probably dreaming about being a hero instead of everyone's errand boy, Isumo barges in. She confesses she doesn't just want him as a pet, she actually wants a relationship. Yuki's brain short-circuits. The poor fool thought he was just an emotional support puppy, not boyfriend material. Isumo is apparently impressed by his bravery and housekeeping skills. As if Yuki's been starring in some bizarre rom-com, Shushu suddenly bursts in to play video games, only to find Isumo making herself cozy in Yuki's room. Naturally, drama explodes. The squad scolds Isumo for abusing her power to pounce on Yuki. She leaves, and Yuki, exhausted by life and everything in it, is ordered to get some rest. Tomorrow's another day of chaos. The next morning, Kyoko announces training. They'll be fighting humanoids again, so she wants to test her servant ability. This means riding Yuki, which is both hilarious and humiliating for him. First up is Nei. She grabs his chains, and poof, Yuki transforms. His senses sharpen, his vision goes X-ray, and he starts apologizing for seeing things he really shouldn't. Everyone's amazed by his new powers, especially Kyoko, who sees potential for hunting down hidden enemies. But it's exhausting for Yuki, and the transformation drains a ton of strength. Nei, the considerate one, thanks him with a peck on the cheek. Yuki's cheeks probably turn tomato red. Kyoko realizes the one giving the reward should be the rider, not the lender, and awkwardly apologizes. Shushu, the overly excited chaos gremlin, declares it's her turn. Kyoko warns her that rewards in real battle might be extreme, but Shushu of course pretends not to care. She hops on Yuki and boom, he transforms again. This time he's a hulking beast, bulky but sluggish. Kyoko's unimpressed, and Shushu, desperate to prove its worth, tries growing into her giant form. Unfortunately, Yuki doesn't grow with her, and gets squashed like a bug. Shushu's reward? Bandaging him up. The poor guy can't catch a break. Kyoko decides Nei's transformation is more useful, and tells them to focus on developing it. Nei heads to school, and Yuki, in full butler mode, offers to walk her. As they go, Nei reveals she joined the Demon Defense Force to find her parents, who mysteriously vanished. She believes her powers, which help her find things, came from her strong desire to locate them. Yuki, ever the gullible sap, reassures her that they're out there, just like his sister. Meanwhile, Isumo gets a message from the Supreme Commander, who wants to try talking to the humanoid enemies. Kyoko immediately calls it out as a dumb idea. Humanoids aren't exactly chatty peace lovers. Isumo admits it'll probably lead to a fight anyway. Later, Yuki returns home, only to find Isumo there again, teasing him. Just as things get awkward, an alarm sounds. Shushu and Himari are on patrol and report multiple enemy gateways. Kyoko springs into action, dragging Yuki along. She's in a foul mood, and even forbids Yuki from showing interest in other commanders. She declares he's her servant, and hers alone. Yuki transforms, and Kyoko unleashes a new technique, impressing everyone, even Shushu. But the battle takes a turn when a new type of Shuki appears. This thing heals instantly, forcing the squad to use their strongest move, the mighty blade cross. It works, slicing the enemy in half. Watching from afar is Shikoku, the humanoid villain, who's disappointed her little experiment failed. She mocks humans for their obsession with combining things and plots her next move. Yuki and Kyoka are busy cleaning up Shuki after Shuki, showing off with some new chain combo attacks. They're looking flashy and confident, like they're in some low-budget video game. After finishing up one Shuki, his big reward? Carrying Kyoka like she's a sack of potatoes. Honestly, this guy's priorities are as twisted as a pretzel. They even share a kiss afterward, which probably boosted his ego to new heights. Meanwhile, the girls are back at the dorm, gossiping about Yuki like he's some kind of robot dog. He's great at following orders, they say. Efficient, they say. If only he had a brain too. Isumo shows up, and the others tell her to go home. But of course, she sticks around. And Yuki, ever the genius, notices Kyoka getting annoyed. Isumo asks how Yuki got so talented, and Yuki starts gushing about his sister. Apparently, his sister taught him everything he knows, including how to fight off bullies and maybe how to tie his shoelaces. The girls swoon over his sister, probably because she sounds like the real hero of this story. Kyoka, feeling generous, gives Yuki the rest of the day off. Later, trouble strikes as someone is spotted running for their life outside. The girls spring into action to save them, but things go sideways fast. They meet Coco, a humanoid who's here for one thing only, chaos. She brings in some Shuki, and things heat up. Himari tries to talk sense into Coco, but Coco's as stubborn as a mule and just wants to fight. Himari gets a new weapon and causes massive damage, but Coco treats it like a fun workout. Meanwhile, Shushu is out there trying to fight off Shuki, but one gives her trouble. A new humanoid pops out of nowhere and attacks Shushu, while Kyoka and Yuki rush in to help. Unfortunately, Yuki gets himself captured like the walking disaster he is, leaving Kyoka and the rest to regroup at the dorm. Meanwhile, Yuki wakes up to find himself pinned down by a humanoid. His sister, Aoba, walks in, and surprise, she's alive and part of the humanoid squad. Yuki is thrilled and confused, but hey, at least his scars are gone, thanks to Coco's healing powers. Aoba decides it's time to explain everything, so she drags Yuki outside to show him the humanoid's hidden village. This place is like a no-go zone for the Demon Defense Force because there are no peach trees around. The villagers, former humans turned humanoids, explain how an accident made them what they are now. Aoba wants Yuki to stay, assuring him he won't be treated like a servant anymore. But Yuki, being the naive optimist he is, insists they don't need to hide and should talk to the Demon Defense Force. Predictably, the humanoids lose their cool, reminding him that the Defense Force is their enemy. Aoba even points out how Yuki was treated like dirt by them. Back at the dorm, Kyoka finally emerges from her room and declares she can sense Yuki's transformation has ended. She's basically become a living Yuki radar, which everyone finds both hilarious and useful. They start preparing to rescue him, with help from another squad. Meanwhile, Yuki's busy being, well, Yuki. He sniffs a mushroom and starts hallucinating. He even mistakes one of the humanoids for food. Aoba returns to find him in a ridiculous situation, probably wondering how her brother turned out to be such a clown. After eating a proper meal, Yuki feels better and notices Aoba holding a Mato peach. Turns out these peaches are connected to the humanoid's transformation. Aoba explains how difficult it is to decide whether to eat one, given all the responsibilities that come with it. Back at the dorm, the girls gear up to rescue Yuki. Kyoka leads the charge, determined to bring back her idiot knight in shining armor. Neon, with her stunning looks and her big, flashy presence, starts narrating her story, cutting off Yuki, who is too eager for some drama. She drops a bombshell. She used to be a model. Big deal, right? But then came the Madam Mishap, and boy, did her life nosedive. She had this weird peach obsession, thinking it would grant her superpowers if she ate it when she was old and wrinkly. But fate had other plans. Instead of magic powers, she got a front-row ticket to horror. She mutated, thanks to the peach's power going berserk. When Neon woke up, she was in some shady research lab that loved experimenting on people. Turns out her mutation made her a jackpot for their twisted studies. Did she want this? Absolutely not. But the researchers sweet-talked her into agreeing, saying they needed her for a cure. Classic manipulation. So, our unlucky diva got poked and prodded like a science project. As if life couldn't get worse, she found out she could walk through objects. Outside, the fights reached their peak. Coco, the slimy and infuriating one, declares her invincibility. Sahara and Shushu, the brawlers of the group, struggle against her. Coco's ability makes her impossible to hit, and she mocks them endlessly. Meanwhile, inside the facility, Amma, the time-stopping queen, tries to shoot down her opponent. Her bullets work, but not enough to end the fight, proving that things can always get worse. Back in the middle of the chaos, Yuki realizes he's utterly useless. Everyone around him is a powerhouse, and he's just a glorified cheerleader. His sister Aoba ties him up to keep him out of harm's way, which is both hilarious and sad. He tries to reason with her again, but Ayoba's rage and determination to protect him overpower everything else. The fights rage on, with Coco laughing at her opponent's efforts. Sahara's attempt to punch her only ends with her sliding off like Coco's made of oil. Shushu tries brute force but achieves nothing. Coco smugly declares that their strength is pointless. Her slimy powers make her untouchable, and she rubs it in everyone's face. As the battles spiral into madness, Amma freezes time again, firing her gun at Aoba's ally. The bullets almost hit their mark, but the opponent counters just in time. Neon, observing from a distance, starts to piece together their abilities, but it's clear she's also overwhelmed. Amid the fighting, Shikoku and his crew decide it's time to announce their arrival in the most over-the-top, dramatic way possible. Yuki, tied up and useless, can only watch as everyone around him fights to the death, his dreams of being a hero fading faster than Coco's patience. The stage is set for even more insanity, as both sides prepare for their next move. Aoba's got that smug attitude, thinking she's all that and a bag of chips. She starts throwing punches like a mad cow on a sugar rush, but guess what? Coca is too cool for her. Coca's slicing through attacks like she's chopping veggies, staying calm like she's on a meditation retreat. Meanwhile, Isumo's teleporting like a ninja, trying to push Aoba back. Aoba, of course, dodges every attack like a goat who thinks it's the fastest thing alive. She's zipping around, eating peaches like they're her life force. And Isumo's over there trying to warn her, peaches are dangerous, girl. But Aoba? Nah, she's just chomping down. Whatever. As long as those peaches keep her powered up, she's invincible, or so she thinks. She starts talking about ending the fight and calls Isumo a home wrecker for trying to snatch her brother. Isumo's over there taking notes, figuring out Aoba's arsenal. She's got more tricks up her sleeve than a magician at a birthday party, from her beam mouth to her hair manipulation. Not to mention the peach addiction that's fueling her wild ride. Isumo's dodging Aoba's hair attacks and teleporting around trying to wear her out. Aoba's speedy, sure, but Isumo's got stamina for days. Over at Koka's battle, the unicorn's slippery like an eel. Shushu tries dropping a boulder on Koka, but Koka's all calm and collected, barely a scratch. Turns out Koka's got the magic slime that heals not just herself, but also Yuki. She's got a soft spot for him, and now she's ready to take down anyone who stands in her way. Shushu starts talking about Kuma, a Shuki from a past mission that did some seriously terrible things. Sahara's all in, and Koka's not about to let anyone stop her. Formation S. Sounds like a clever escape plan, right? Nope. Shushu shrinks herself, and Sahara launches herself into Kuma's mouth like it's a theme park ride. Sahara grows back into her giant form and destroys Kuma from the inside out. Koka's over there trying to stop them, but Sahara's got something else in mind. She grabs one of Kuma's teeth and slices Koka like it's a piece of cake. Koka's down, and she's left wondering how she lost. You messed with a girl in love, Koka. You were doomed from the start, but the fight's not over. The other girls start healing, and Himari, captured earlier, gets a last-minute save. Alma's using her time manipulation powers, trying to stay one step ahead. But as usual, there's always a surprise around the corner. Isumo and Aoba are still going at it. Isumo's dodging Aoba's lightning-fast punches, but Aoba's getting tricked. She hits the unicorn by accident. Surprise, surprise. Kyoka steps in, dealing some damage, but Aoba's too fast to be caught. Isumo, though, figures out Aoba's pattern. She starts dealing some damage, but the hesitation is her downfall. Aoba lands a massive hit on Isumo, and the cave's about to collapse. Isumo's pinned down in front of Yuki, and Aoba, in the most annoying way possible, mocks her for hesitating. Isumo explains that she couldn't end Aoba's life because of Yuki. That's right. Aoba's attitude got a little less nasty after hearing that. She starts feeling all warm and fuzzy inside, like a sappy romance movie. But let's be real, Aoba's just pretending to be nice. She lets Isumo and the rest of the gang escape, but she's still got plans to attack the Bureau. Kyoka's not having any of that retreat nonsense. Then bam, more humanoids show up. Shikoku and her squad, who call themselves gods, are here to wreak havoc. Shikoku's not impressed with Aoba's team and drops some truth bombs, saying their job is to destroy humanity. Kuma tries to charge at them, but Juryu obliterates him with one punch. Aoba, the self-proclaimed protector of her brother, is suddenly facing off with Kadaru, who's been turned into a murderous beast by Shikoku's snake. He's going after Aoba, but guess what? Yuki steps in, stopping Kadaru like it's no big deal. Yuki's protecting his sister, like the overprotective sibling he is. Aoba and Yuki tag team against Kadaru, and now things are looking pretty wild. Kyoka's childhood was pretty peaceful, hanging out with her friends in the village, surrounded by nature. But, surprise, her peaceful life gets a big kick in the face one day when the Unihorn decides it's time to ruin everything. Poor Kyoka tried to help a friend, but the Unihorn just swatted her like a bug. Meanwhile, Yuki, the hero we never asked for, but got anyway, is squaring up with the Unihorn. This monster isn't just any big, ugly creature. No, this thing actually knows how to fight. Yuki's struggling, but the guy's determined to save Kyoka from getting impaled. I mean, talk about a weird family dynamic. Kyoka, all fired up, jumps in with her own attack. She's not done yet, not by a long shot. Kadaru's in rage mode, but Kyoka's got a different kind of rage, one that comes from losing everything. So, she lets loose with a move called Howling Cherry Blossom. It's basically like a flower-fueled rage machine. And guess what? She slices Kadaru in half like a bad haircut. Kyoka wins, and suddenly, she's the queen of the day. But also, of course, Shikoku is not impressed. She slips away while everyone's distracted. Yuki goes off to check on his injured crew, probably expecting a parade or something. Kyoka's taking all the glory, just like she said she would. Yuki, being the good brother he is, thinks about his sister's future and how she'll be safe. Aoba's back, still feeling rough, but she's convinced that soon enough, she'll be Yuki's wife, so she's part of the family now. Aoba's trying to figure out what comes next. There's a lot of revenge talk and a whole lot of grimness floating around. The humanoids are at it again, but this time, Aoba's not backing down. Meanwhile, Yuki's just worrying about how to keep everyone safe. But no, Kyoka's got an answer. She's ready to help, and the team's headed back to the dorms for some rest. And by rest, I mean a big meal. Yuki's cooking up a storm, probably hoping his food skills will impress Aoba, who's about to try his cooking for the first time. Yuki's cooking? It's a 50-50 chance of getting food poisoning, but Aoba's in, trying to act like it's the greatest thing ever. Then Ama starts making fun of Yuki, but like a true sibling, she's secretly hoping the food doesn't taste like cardboard. Yuki's feeling pretty good about this. He starts his speech, but of course Shushu interrupts him because food is life, right? Everyone eats and the room turns into a mini feast. Even Kyoka's too busy recovering to argue about Yuki being the center of attention. He's just here to save the day, after all. But just as Yuki's thinking he's done enough, he gets a little surprise. Aoba's in his room, waiting for a reward, because of course, she's been watching him sleep. Kyoka storms in, as expected, to remind Yuki who's boss. The man's really not allowed to have a moment's peace. If you enjoyed getting your anime fix and had a good laugh along the way, don't forget to hit that like button, because, let's be honest, who doesn't love a little affirmation in their lives? Make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to stay tuned to all our latest recaps, reviews, and ridiculously fun anime adventures. Catch you on the flip side, and remember, your true power is just a click away.